Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am joined by the delightful Becca Shaw. So she is a spiritual guide to all things spiritual, dedicated to illuminating your path to true potential. With a compassionate approach and expertise in diverse healing modalities, she empowers clients through Akashic Records coaching, insightful divination readings, and holistic therapies. Originally from England, where the veil is thin, Becca now resides in Canada, creating a nurturing space for transformative journeys and helping individuals embrace their unique spiritual paths with confidence and clarity. A big welcome to the show, Becca.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, did you always have your gifts, or was it something that just kind of birthed out of I like to call it a reawakening? Boom.
No, I definitely was born with it. I've definitely had many lives of it. I can't remember a time that I wasn't the weird woo-woo one. So I've always had it for sure. I was always, as my mum used to tell me, always down the bun of the garden looking for fairies and chatting with, invisible things and stuff. So I was always interested in it for sure.
And being in England, because I always feel England's where we always think about where the fairies and the Celtic and the Druid lines are and all that fun stuff. Was it a really crazy shift then moving to Canada and leaving that kind of energy behind?
So it was. I did travel quite a lot beforehand though. So I was used to being in other countries and different energy fields and things. But I assumed Canada, being so much bigger than the UK, was going to have just ley lines and all this stuff everywhere. And just all of this magic there because, the First Nations, like the Native Americans, but the Canadian ones, obviously I thought, well, there's going to be some magical, spiritual something here. And there really isn't. It's quite subtle and quite sparse here, I guess, for that. So I was really shocked when I came here that there wasn't so much of that and there wasn't so much history and things here as there is in Europe, for example. So it was a bit of a spiritual shock to the system for sure.
Yeah. I imagine it would be just it's interesting, right? I feel people don't realize that the area and the culture does have an impact on the energies that are pulled into the land and they're attracted to that area.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so I know we were talking about, you do Akashic record readings, but what else do you do? Because I feel to ask that.
What don't I do, Catherine? So I do Akashic Records and I do coaching through that as well. So I actually take my clients into their records rather than using it like me being a channel and telling people. I find that works a lot better for my clientele. But if people just want to have things told to them, I do things like tarot reading and oracle card reading and other kind of divination kind of stuff. I also do human design and I do astrology. So those are all ways that I can tell people their future or their past or their personalities and stuff like that. But I like to combine all of these things together in the coaching world to actually help people understand themselves better as well. And then on the other side of that, I do things like massage, multiple different types, and reflexology, Reiki, crystal healing. I do ear candling. I won't stop learning. I can't stop learning. It's just a lifelong passion of mine just to keep adding to my toolbox. And so I just literally have an enormous list of different ways that I can help people.
I love that. And I also love that you have so many different facets to share with people to get them to know themselves rather than relying on you to be the I guess the savior kind of thing.
Yes.
And I love that you teach people how to go into their own Akashic, because I know a lot of people are like, I need to find an Akashic record reader. I need to find an Akashic record reader. We can all access it. And
Yeah.
It just depends the degree of how open you are, I guess, intuitively, or your psychic gifts of how that message comes to you. But whatever you need to know for your soul, it'll come across perfectly.
Absolutely, because it's your records. So you absolutely have a link to that. And yes, you might need a little bit of help to start off with, and that's fine. That could be through somebody like myself, or it could just be through YouTube videos, something like that. But you have the ability to do it. You just have to learn to do it. And once you're in there, you've got access forever, and you can literally go up and ask anything from a mundane thing to a spiritual thing, your career, your relationships, traumas and past lives and future selves. It's just unlimited up there. So it's such an amazing tool for everyone to be able to access. And like you said, I teach my clients to go in for themselves because it's so important for them to be able to do that. But then they do sometimes come back to me and say, well, there's this big thing. And I want to make sure that I'm not making it up, or I want to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly, or, just that kind of thing. And then, of course, I go in with them. But most of the time I'll be like, you know how to do this. You can just go and do it. Like it's your own soul. I'm just a guest. I'm just in your home as a visitor. I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just helping you along when you need it. If I know the answer, it's not my job to blurt that out to you. My job is to help you understand and hear and see and understand for yourself, so that you can then say, I understand now. I need to do this. I need to, go along this path, or this is why this is happening, or whatever it is. Because if I just tell you, it doesn't have such an impact. Yeah. Like when I'm doing like tarot, for example, people will come to me with the same questions, and I'm just like, I've already told you what the cards say. Oh, but I want you to tell me again. Well, did you implement anything that I told you to do? No. That's why. But then if they do the Akashic Records and they're in there and they see and hear and understand for themselves, then they actually are more likely to go out and change the things that they need to do and put the activity in.
100%. And often when it's in your own words, not someone else's words, it tends to resonate deeper and feel more aligned because it's coming from you rather than them. And I know what you mean, but because sometimes you'll get something so profound and you're like, I just need to check this with somebody because,
Yes.
it feels big and it feels a lot. And I just want to check it with somebody and just have that reinforcement. And I know I've got this friend and she always sends me things to ask my opinion. And she's very intuitive. And I said to her, you need to stop relying on me. Ask yourself first, come up with your answer, and then send it to me and say, hey, this is what I got. I would appreciate your input as well. What do you think? And I'll just say, yeah, that's exactly the feeling I get as well. Like you're spot on. And that then, helps the people tune into their own gifts and their own intuition and their own trusting themselves and the messages that come through, rather than putting us as healers in this savior role, like we're always going to be there to tap into. Because that is, for a healer, if you let your client do that, that is so draining. Please don't let them do that. They can't always
Yes.
come running to you. You're not doing your job. You need to empower
Yeah.
them to do it themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, because they think, oh, a healer, I just go to them and I just let them do their thing, and then I'm healed, or I'm, my mindset's clearer, or whatever it is, right? The blockage is gone. But it's like, you need to have an active role in your own healing. If you have no motivation, no willpower, no want to change it, you can go to the best healer in the world and nothing's going to happen. So but likewise, if you could have the most motivation in the world, like 100% motivation, and no one to help you, and you're going to succeed. You have 0% motivation and you go to the best healers, the best coaches, the best, psychics, everybody, nothing's going to happen, because you just need to put in an active part in your own healing.
Yeah. 100%. And even, I've interviewed a lot of people about plant medicine and things like that. And they'll all say the same thing, that if you are not ready and open, the medicine will not work for you. It will not take you on the journey, because if your intent isn't clear, if you haven't done the work beforehand, if you're not ready to embrace that, it's not a quick fix. It won't just show you what you need to know. You have to do all the work to get there. And then I love universal timing sometimes. I was talking to this person this morning, and she said she was channeling for one of her clients. Her previous life, she was an Andromeda. And she said, everything's taken care for them. Like, they don't even have to really eat. They just kind of get plasmic confusions, and she goes, but the soul was bored. It was so bored because everything had been taken care of, and it hadn't gone through those problems and solving it and rediscovering. And that's when the soul craves to be on earth. So as much as we get frustrated and hate going, like, why am I here? What am I doing? What's going on? I don't know. It's a reason why our soul chose that, to go through that demystifying of the veil and crossing back over and everything else, and if we weren't lucky enough to be born awake or very in tune,
Yes.
or most of us are, and then we turn it off, right? Like, that's the thing too. A lot of us are born with our gifts. We just turn it off for safety reasons. Realizing then that you are still a part of your own journey is so important as well. So when clients come and work with you, Becca, and they've tapped into their Akashic, have you had any super crazy things happen? I always like to ask this question.
It's probably not the thing to ask me because I don't really think anything's super crazy. I'll just go with anything shows up. I mean, I've had ones where people have been like on other planets and other dimensions and stuff. And one was really interesting because she had gone through a lot of lives, I believe all on Earth, where really severe things happened, like really nasty things that she obviously had chosen to experience. But there was so much guilt and so much fatigue and tiredness in her soul after completing all of those lives that she went to this sort of pocket dimension, I guess. And it was like this sort of like this bubble universe type place where no time, no space. It was like this really odd place. And it was almost like a purgatory where she was there while she rested, but also to have like a penance for all the stuff and sort of like purge her soul of those feelings of guilt and sadness and stuff like that, so that she could then step back out and be the amazing healer and angelic form that she is now on Earth. But like, it was this really bizarre, and I've never had it before or since, and I've never really heard of it before, but it was this really strange, really kind of sad emptiness. And she didn't like it. She was like, I don't like this. And I was like, yeah, but this is important because we're being shown this for a reason. It's being shown to you because you needed this rest. You needed this between life rest, and you just chose to, for some reason, to be in this strange space. And so that was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, yeah, just the usual kind of on other planets, different dimensions, different sort of forms as well. It's really interesting. So when someone's not even in a body, right, but they're just kind of there, and they're almost like water or air, and they're fluid and they're flying around and things, and that's kind of cool to watch too. And it's amazing the different types of people that I have. They can be anything from super spiritual to super religious to atheists even, and everyone in between. But even the atheists go through all of this stuff and they just accept. And it's amazing. They're just like, yeah, okay, so this is what I'm seeing and this is what's happening and this is what happened. And I guess with the atheists, they just think it's like a subconscious thing, and that's fine too if that's how they want to do that. But yeah, it's really, really interesting to see the clients reacting to what they're seeing as well, because they can be bizarre or strange or uncomfortable. And my clients are usually quite, okay, so this is happening. Okay, I understand this and I know what's going on and I get the lesson now and I understand how I'm healing from it or how I did heal from it. And it's that's probably not the strangest thing, but that's quite a strange thing for me to see so many different types of people really enjoy and really get something out of something so out there as the Akashic Records. Yeah.
I always say to people, how could you possibly make this up? You know, especially when I
Hmm.
started channeling and working with different souls. And I'm like, this can't be me, you know, because, you know, you still have those doubts when you first start. Well, that was me anyway. I mean, you know, you still had these doubts when I was first starting. And I was like, there is no way I could possibly A, know this about this person, be making this up. This is beyond anything I could possibly create. And C, they seem to be fully resonating with it. So clearly it must be on path of what's coming through. And I feel maybe like even with people with atheist beliefs and things like that, their soul knows, right? They're like, oh well, like this is my truth. This feels aligned with me and this feels right for me, rather than when you get something put an idea put on you and you're like, that's not resonant, you know, that's not aligned with my truth. Like, no, you know, so it's interesting how it comes through as well.
Yeah.
The funniest thing I find is sometimes I used to work in like Catholic schools, and we would have these kids come through or whatever, and I'd be talking to another parent or a teacher and they were very Catholic. And I'd go, "Oh, you can tell that's an old soul, right? They've been here a few times." They're like, oh, 100%. They've been here multiple times. And I'm just sitting there going, technically reincarnation doesn't exist as a Catholic. And then they're like, hang on, hang on, hang on. But they knew it was like when they were speaking it, they knew it was true. You know, especially when
Yeah.
you meet little humans and they have so much wisdom, you know, and then you're like,
Mm.
you could, there is no way you could possibly know this. You're four and you're telling me how the
Yeah.
galaxy was evolved and what stars are made from and everything like that. I'm sorry. Like, you have definitely been here before. And this one little one I'm talking about, a therapist I was working with was taking him home, and he goes, you know, my last life I was born in the Great Depression and all this happened and she's just there. Like, there's no way he would know any of this. So it's so interesting when those examples come, because people can't question them because they're so accurate or they're so right for that person that it's just accepted. I've never had to fight with someone to accept something that comes through like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a shame that we tell children, oh, that's just a dream or that's just make believe or whatever. And it, like we were saying before, it was like it just kind of suppresses them, right? It like takes away that link to the universe or the divine or whatever, because we are born with that, and then just over the years we're told, oh, that's silly, or no, you're not knowing that, or you can possibly have known that was going to happen or whatever, and then we lose it, right? Because we're told, oh, that, you know, magic doesn't exist, and so we we're not actually doing this, and it's such a shame. If we could, you imagine if we encourage children to flex that muscle, to become really truly intuitive and connected to the world and to like the universe and everything, and just like what an amazing generation we would have if we just let all the children right now just tap into that energy, right? All these healers and intuitives, and yeah, it would be amazing.
Yeah, and then we just let them be them, you know,
Yeah.
without putting our beliefs and projecting that onto them and allowing them to not have to go through their dark night of soul and you know round
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 and all those sorts of things, because there's always going to be some sort of initiation, you know, and as you shift from one identity to another. But at the same time, if you know, hey, these are my spiritual gifts and this is why I'm here and this is what memories I have to help me through this life, it'd be a lot more powerful, because then you're not stuck in the same karmic cycle till you actually question it and pull yourself out or move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's it's so true, because a lot more people are actually doing that. I find there's a lot more parents that are actually encouraging their children now. There was before, obviously, but there wasn't as many as there are now. And I think that's incredible, especially, you know, the time that we're moving into and everything. It's just, yeah, it's just like this is the time that those souls decided to come in, because they knew that they were going to be allowed to explore their gifts and to be their true selves and not get suppressed and programmed and things like that. So it is going to be quite an interesting future for sure.
Yeah, and there are more and more little ones coming in with the knowledge, right? And they're coming in just like my son remembers coming, picking as a soul, like picking us as parents and going across the rainbow bridge. And then it was crazy because he started school and then they told him this rainbow bridge story and he just fully was like, oh yeah, that's what I tell my mum and dad all the time. And I'm like, I'd never heard of this concept of the rainbow bridge before my child, but he was so adamant this is how it happened, and river of forgetfulness, but he didn't go through the river because he came and was remembering. So it was really interesting, like just having that contrast and having that feedback. But it was also interesting watching him when he was at school, like watching that the kids drop that magical innocence, the ones that,
Yeah.
you could see it being programmed out of them and trying to keep that magic alive, even for, my son. Like we'll happily go put cookies in the garden for fairies and build them little fairy homes. And because my husband's not fully on board with the fairies, but that's okay. That's him. But it's really funny because our stuff doesn't go missing when we leave it outside, but his stuff does. So
Yes.
we're like, just go give a cookie to the fairies. It'll be okay. Go leave an offering. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? But it was funny. I was just talking about this with a friend today. So we had like our gardening gloves outside and mine went touched and my husband's and my son's went missing. And my son and I were like leaving, like I said, oh, I bet you it's the fairies. Like we need to go leave them an offering. We haven't done it for a while. So we went and did that. And then my son and I just walking through the bush and perfectly on this rock, like in the middle of this walk, was his glove that was missing, laid perfectly on top of this rock. And I was like, he goes, wow, Mum, the fairies gave it back. I was like, I know. How amazing is that? And then my husband's never came back.
Well, if
But
that's not proof, right?
yeah, but at the same time, trying to step out of that very logical upbringing that most of us have had, and to think with our mind first rather than tapping into our intuition and our heart and to our gut instincts is quite a process to learn to reverse that, where when things happen, people will go who are logic, oh, that's a coincidence, whereas when you're coming from a heart space, you're like, oh, that's interesting that I've seen that particular animal twice in a week and I never see that animal. I'm going to go investigate that, whereas, and then sure enough, you look it up and you're like, oh, yes, that is definitely something I need to work on or definitely something I need to think about. So it's that contrast and that shift that's finally starting to come through. And I guess it's stepping into that divine feminine energy again.
Yeah, and that's also something so important that we've kind of lost over the last, let's say, couple of 100 years. Like it's very very important that that comes back now. And like if you told me that 20 years ago, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I'm fiercely independent. I don't need to be feminine. I don't need, but like, yeah, it's like, it's something that again is with the programming is being taken away from us, right? Just like with the children and the magic, it's the women are getting the feminine, like the connection to the divine feminine taken from them. So lots more women now are moving back to that and finding that. And I think a lot of people think that divine feminine just means, submissive
Spiritual.
and weak and just like women's work and stuff. And they don't realize all these different archetypes and things. Like it's like you could be quite terrifying if you wanted to, like, and still be feminine, right? So it's like, yeah, that's kind of interesting as well to look into that kind of things.
I always think of, when people are like, the extreme divine feminine, you've got Kali, right? Like the goddess Kali.
Yes,
And
I love her.
right. And if anyone's curious, just go search goddess Kali and you'll see the images. But if you ever work with her energy, it is pure love and divine feminine. But if you need her to come in and help you have that power that you need to cut a situation or like have that power to step through it, oh, it is, you can just feel it. You're like, all right, I can roar and charge and go do what I need to do, but do it in such a place that it's coming from love, and rather
Yeah.
than, just kind of stepping in and being like, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't working for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's actually really good for childbirth as well. I knew someone that called her in for the birth of her child, and that was pretty special too. Yeah,
Wow.
so again, it's like that whole sort of creative energy and the portal energy that she creates, right? And she's helping the woman bring that soul through the portal. So it's very, very cool. If you work with Kali during childbirth or any kind of creative stuff, but especially childbirth, because that's the magic there, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's where, the crazy stuff can happen too, and if you want to like carry, and this is for anyone listening, I'm just getting told to share this. If you want to carry the energy of a particular goddess, god, ascended master, angel, galactic, whatever you dragon, whatever you resonate with, sometimes you can pick a crystal that aligns with them or some jewelry, and you can wear them so that you feel like you're wearing them with you. So I have, like, if I want to work with Kali, I have little obsidian earrings, so that makes me think of Kali. Or if I want Archangel Michael, I've got a lapis lazuli anklet. Or if I want to really tap into Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, then I'll wear rose quartz. So there's different things we can do to help anchor that energy and remind us that we're not alone, and that we've got all these beautiful energies we can carry with us and step into whatever situation we need to keep stepping through.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, like you don't need to necessarily research like which one do I need. Sometimes it's just like this is the one that I need to connect with that deity or that being, right? So just because it's not in any of the list doesn't mean that that's not how you can actually create that link to that being and actually communicate with them. That's your personal portal, I guess, or that your personal bridge to that guide, that god, that angel, that goddess, whatever it is, right? So because I think a lot of people get hung up on with crystals, like, oh well, it
And the
doesn't say
ritual.
that's what that's meant to do. Yeah. And it's like, but do you feel that that's what it does for you? Because then that's what it's doing for you. Each crystal is gonna connect to you in a different way. Even the same ones, like if you've got a load of clear quartz, there's going to be one that really does resonate with you so much better than any of the others. They could be the same sizes and shapes and everything, and it's just this one is your one. That's the one that's linking with you, right? So don't get so caught up with the books or what online says or what the influencer says or whatever it is. Go with your own intuition, because it's not going to be wrong. That crystal says this is who you need, and that's who you're going to connect with, and that's what it does.
And I feel that's with anything. I remember listening to this webinar series, and I was listening to it while I was driving, and they're like, okay, now to do this ritual and meditation, you have to light a candle and do this and do this and do this. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll make time to do it later. And then I just kept driving. I'm like, no, I just want to do it. I'm just going to do it. And then I did. And I was like, I didn't need all the ritual. And I guess, yes, you can do a ritual. Like if I make myself a cup of cacao, and if I want to use that cacao for a purpose, then I'll put my intention in it. But if I just genuinely want a cup of cacao, I'm just going to drink it, and I'll still make it the same way. I just won't have as much intention put into it. And I feel it's the same with crystals or rituals or whatever that you feel pulled to. Do it your way, and trust it.
Yeah. And if you need the ritual because it makes you feel like you're actually doing something, then do it. But you don't need to do it every single time. Like I don't know if you've seen, like there's like a meme or something online, and it's like a beginner witch, and it's like, oh, I have to get these color candles and these crystals and do it on this day of the week under this phase of the moon and with these herbs, and I've got to like bless them with the water from like a special well or whatever. And then it's like like the witch that's been doing it for years. It's just like brushing Cheeto like dust off my hands. All right, gods, let's go. This is what I need. End of. Like, and it's just like, it's true, right? Like, like it is just your intention and it's your magic. So it's your abilities and stuff. So obviously at the beginning you might need a little help, because with anything it's those muscles that you're learning and that skill that you're learning. So you might need like the crystal or whatever. But a great example is when I'm doing the Akashic Records on clients, I have the crystals and things. Like I literally do the whole song and dance thing with these, but I don't need them. And sometimes if I'm going in for myself, I will use them, but I don't need them. I could literally just jump in now and jump back out again, and I've done it, right? Like I don't need the I don't need the things. It just,
they're almost like
the
training
ritual
wheels,
of it.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you put them on until you're ready to ride that bike, and then when you're ready, you can just jump in and you don't have to get hung up on it, you know. And then if you hear someone else does it differently, that doesn't mean that you have to change how you do it. It's just that's what works for them, because we all have our unique process and our unique soul. So it's like, I didn't know that. So it's always, you know, take what resonates, leave what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's with anything. That's literally anything from the mundane to the spiritual, right? Like, do it your way. Take bits from different places and different people that resonate with you, and then just discard the rest and do it your way. And you're not going to just do it that way forevermore. You're going to change and evolve. And that's the interesting thing. Like, oh, I used to do it this way, but now I do it that way. And it maybe because it's easier to do it that way, or it's just you've learnt more in that time. And it's this beautiful evolution of your own spirituality, your own abilities, and your own way of doing it. And yeah, like you said, it's never going to be wrong, because you're going with how it feels good for you and how it works for you. Like the way that something works for me is not going to be how it works for you, and not how it works for your listeners, right? So I can't say, well, you have to do it this way or it's not going to work. Well, no, because yes, it works for me, but it's not going to work for you necessarily, or it's not going to work for you on the same level.
Yeah. And it's so true what you said too. As you evolve, your skills evolve. So when I started channeling, I would have to, you know, set up the little crystal grid around me and really ground myself and center in and close my eyes, and I would put a recorder on. Whereas now I'm like, all right, what do you want to know? For the highest and greatest good, here's the intention. Let's go. You know, so it's again, it's you have to go. I feel you have to go, well, not have to, but you go through the ritual at the start to understand the process and to remember, so you can remember what you're meant to do.
Yeah, it definitely helps, right? Because especially if you're using crystals, like the crystals have their own essence and their own souls, if you want to put it like that, right? So they're helping you, they're lending you some energy and giving you some ideas and giving you advice. Whether you realize it or not, they're actually helping you through that, helping you learn and grow. You know, I've got all my crystals and I'm still going to use them, but I don't necessarily need them to do these things. And again, it's just the ritual of it. If I want to feel more magical that day, but I can just as easily do it, just like you said, like that, like, let's go. All right, what are we doing? Like, hey guides, hey gods, let's go. Like, you know,
come on for the party.
Just, right?
Let's go. Yeah.
And that's the other thing as well. Like when people first go up into the record, they think it's going to be all serious and they have to be like, hello guides, and, you know, bowing to them and stuff. And they go in and there's like these sort of like fun encores that are like messing about with them and poking them and telling them, like teasing them and things like that. And they're like, what's happening right now? And I'm like, aren't they great? They're just fun. And yeah, it's just such a shock for them because they think it's going to be this reverent, sacred experience. And then they're like, okay, they're calling me out on my stuff. Like, what's happening right now? It's very fun.
My guides are hilarious. They do things and I'm just like, really? You couldn't have got me to do it the easy way? They're like, no, it was a lesson in trust. You had to go around this way rather than just straight. And I was like,
right,
okay, thank you.
I even have like repeat clients that literally come in and they say, right, how can this happen without it going round in circles, without it being a lesson? How can this happen? And the guides are like, wow. And they're like, no. How, with it not being a drawn out lesson, how is it actually going to work for me? And they're just standing there, just smiling. It's like, yeah, I think you got like maybe one more. Get it right. So yeah, It is fun.
My favorite is I'll ask for a timeline and I just get soon. And I'm like, so like a month, like a year, soon. And I'm like, okay, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
I think the problem with the timing questions that I've always found with anything like tarot and all of that is that the timing, if you get it, which is rare anyway, but the timing, if you're given it, is for that moment right then in that present moment. But you could then leave the reading or your own channeling or whatever, and you have like 6 different forks in the road to get you to that thing. And so you pick the longer ones each time. And then you're like, well, it said it was going to be next week and it was next year. And it's like, yes, because you had all these choices and you kept going the long way around. So you then chose to go the year route rather than the next week one. So, I mean, that's quite a big difference, but you know what I mean? So that's really funny to, so I don't really like when people say, oh, what time, like how long? And I'm like, right at this present moment, it would be this, but that's you doing X, Y, and Z and sticking to that. And then they're like, you have free will, you don't have to do that, but it's going to take longer, or it might not even happen because you go so far off and you get something better, or, you know, you don't need that lesson anymore because you've learned it in a different way. And it's very, like the timing stuff is always what people ask, and it's never what they should be asking.
No. And so I've started to change the questions that I ask and say, what is blocking me from getting to my highest timeline? Because I find that is more helpful than actually saying, okay, how long? Because I've gone through that too, exactly what you've talked about. Like, oh, okay, yeah, a couple of weeks, great. And then shift the timeline, right? And then it's like, oh, it's now a year and we're still here. But as we start to finish our time, Becca, I know we could talk about so many other things. I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Do you know, it's so like, it's nothing really that big, but it's huge. It's like, I really want people to realize the power of their own soul. And that seems so simple, but it's not. Like, if people actually realized exactly how powerful they were and are and what their soul has gone through, and the power and the magic and the ability that they have, then they would just be leaps and bounds ahead of themselves. So the thing that I would really love is for people to actually be able to tap into themselves, however that needs to be, and be able to heal those lessons, traumas, everything for themselves, so that they can really truly tap into who they are on that soul level, so that they can advance so much quicker and so much more with ease, and understand that even when the not so great things happen, that they can actually ride that wave. You know, they don't need to suffer through it, and definitely not suffer longer than they need to, because they understand that lesson and the divineness of that, and they can,
Yeah, 100%. No. Yeah. And if people want to come and find you or learn how to access their own Akashic, or just get coached in all the beautiful holistic things that you do, where can they come and find you, Becca?
So the best way is probably social media. I have Facebook and I have Instagram. Facebook would be Ember Healing or Celestine Soul Maps. And then Instagram would also be Celestine Soul Maps, but also Holistic Becca. And from there is a link tree on both of those. And you can then go to websites and YouTube and all of those things for me as well.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to put all those fun things in the show notes. So thank you, Becca. It has been a fun rabbit hole of conversations. I love it. Thank you for sharing your beautiful energy on this show. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.